Does it feel like the only way that you can get your toddler's attention is by yelling? Yeah, I've been there. I am that parent that has totally yelled because I feel like, oh, it's the only way to get you to listen to me. And honestly, in the moment, it feels like it's working because they stop doing whatever they're doing. Like they're hitting their sibling, or they're screaming, or they're crying, or they're just, I don't know, doing toddler things. You yell and they get startled and they stop, you know? And so, yeah, on the outside, it looks like it's working and it's, stopping these unwanted behaviors. But I'm guessing you clicked on this video because one of two reasons. One, you don't want to yell and you don't know what else to do. Or two, you have a lot of mom guilt or parent guilt about, yelling, and you don't want to do it. And yet you don't know how else to raise this little child because it's like, you're doing these unwanted behaviors and I don't know what to do. And so, help me. So if you are in either of those situations, I want you to know this video is going to be so helpful in helping you to figure out other ways to channel that yelling. And I'm going to go into probably some surprising things. Maybe you've heard it before, maybe you haven't, but yelling is not actually our child's fault. But I'll get to that in a minute. Before I get into today's video, I want to introduce myself. My name is Alexis. I am a mama to 2 little girls. I am also a parenting coach, and it is my mission to help parents like you to have the tools to be able to raise children with love and connection and empathy. And I really want to help you to show up as a parent that you are proud of. Like, that is my ultimate goal, is that you'll feel confident going into any situation. So if this kind of content is interesting to you and you would like to hear more about it, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the little bell to get notified. So before we get into the nitty gritty, let me just share a couple of things. So one, I think that yelling is totally a band-aid. It stops the behavior temporarily, and yet another behavior will come up. So if your child, is hitting and you yell at them, next time they're probably going to be too scared to hit, but then they're going to start kicking instead. So I feel like it's just going to be replaced with another behavior. It doesn't actually get down to the root of what is going on, which as a parent is so important to me, that I am understanding what is going on at the root for my child. So that way this, behavior doesn't keep coming up. I want to truly help her to move past it and to learn how to deal with the feelings and the emotions that come up, so that way she can, have a toolbox of things that she can, use, and how she can use them. It's one thing to have the tools, but then how do I use them? And I think so many of us grew up not even having the tools. So that's what this video is going to help to do, is give you some tools to put in your toolbox. Let me look at my notes so I don't get too far off topic. But I want to give you an example that has happened with my daughter. So I was in a cycle of yelling, and this happened pretty bad after I had my second. It felt like when I was nursing, my oldest would do these just terrible things, and I'm like, what do I do with her? So I would yell. And it started coming out with hitting. She would start hitting, and then I would yell at her for hitting, and then it morphed into lying. And I know on the outside it looks like disrespect and disobedience, and it's like, she is a bad kid. She's being naughty, right? Which, now that I know what I know, I do not think that at all. But what happens, and once we can see that like this behavior is just a replacement for another behavior, so let's say, like I said, she was hitting and now she's lying, the yelling is just going to replace the behavior with a different behavior. Like I said, it's not actually getting down to the root of what is going on for this child, which if you want to understand more about what a child is actually needing, I will link that video below, or I'll put it up here in the cards, so that way you can go check out what your child is actually needing. Getting down to that root is going to help to actually stop behaviors for good. So when we can see that there's been this replacement happening, we realize that the yelling has created a disconnection between us and our child. And this, in and of itself, is going to cause all kinds of behaviors to happen. And they are going to do anything to get that connection back. That is what they're trying to do. Children under the age of 7 need 100% co-regulation, which we're going to talk more about in a minute. So if you imagine that this child needs that much of us, yelling is just exacerbating the situation. It's just making it worse. And it's like, I do not want to compromise that connection between me and my child just to temporarily stop the behavior. Like, it's just not okay with me. I want to stop this behavior for good. I don't want to say stop the behavior. I want this to be a teaching moment. I want this to be something that she is going to grow and to learn from. I don't want to just slap a Band-Aid on it, which is really important to me. So, what can you do to discipline your toddler? Well, before I say this, I know I keep saying, well, wait, one more thing before I get into the nitty gritty. But I don't believe that disciplining your child is helpful. I said it. I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for that, but after all the research I've done, I don't believe that it's effective. Because like I mentioned before, it's just a Band-Aid. So what can you do instead of yelling at your toddler? So let's get into the 5 things that you can do. So the first thing that I would recommend anybody doing is helping the child find calm before setting boundaries, before having a conversation with them. They are offline. Any of us, when we are in that crazy state, we're really angry, we're frustrated, we have no ability to listen. And I want you to think of yourself for a moment, like bring yourself into a moment when you've been really angry, like maybe with your spouse or a friend, and you can't like hear anything else that's going on. Yeah, this is what's happening for toddlers all the time. They do not have the ability to quickly come online and be like, oh, sure, Mom, you're asking me to go put my clothes in the laundry bin? Sure, I can do that. That was all you're asking? Or, oh, you were asking me if I wanted vanilla or chocolate ice cream, not just that you only had vanilla? Like, they are not thinking that. They are just hearing, do you want vanilla? And they're like, what? You only have vanilla ice cream? So you get what I'm saying. A child is in this fight or flight state and they have a really hard time coming down. So before I'm going to try to talk to my child, before I'm going to try to fix things, make things right, help them work through this, I need to get them calm. So what could you do? And this is where the co-regulation comes in. If your toddler is at a stage where they will, willingly want you to hug them to get them to calm down, you could do that. My child, my oldest, would not even let me come near her. So if that was the case, that is, for me, a huge red flag for we do not have a safe, connected relationship. So I now need to repair that. So I cannot just go in expecting to give her a big hug and for her to just be willingly like, yes, hug me. It's like, no, I have to earn that again. So that may look like just sitting on the floor in the room and just saying, hey, I'm here for you when you're ready. If your child isn't, in tantrum mode, they're just really getting worked up, you can, let the meltdown start to happen, and they will reach a point where, they kind of stop, and you can reassure them that you love them and you're going to be there to help them through it. And then, you could also play with them. You could take out some magnet tiles. A couple weeks ago, my husband was having an issue with my daughter, and she ran into her room and slammed the door and slammed the closet, and he looks at me and he's like, oh boy. And so he goes, let me try this. So he walks in and she screams, and so he just sat on the floor, and he actually just started playing with her magnet tiles, and she peered out and goes, what you doing, Daddy? And she's totally stopped crying, and he goes, I'm just gonna play with magnet tiles until you're ready. And she goes, to come play Magnet Tiles. So they played Magnet Tiles for about 5 minutes, and then they were able to have this beautiful conversation. And this is the part that is key. Like, then once they feel safe, once they feel like, okay, I'm okay. I'm not in this fight or flight. I'm here. I'm okay. My parent is with me. I'm safe. They are then receptive to hearing what you have to say. So for me, I don't want to make any corrective lingo talk. I don't want to do any of that. I don't want to do any of it. I don't want to set a boundary when my child is not able to even listen. Because I feel like, one, I'm wasting my breath. But two, I feel like it's not fair to them to have that expectation that they should be able to quickly just change what they're feeling and willingly listen to me because I'm talking to them when they do not have that ability. So actually next week on the podcast, I am going to be sharing all about how to start regulating yourself. And so if you know nothing about self-regulation, this episode is going to be incredibly helpful. So if you're watching this after it's aired, I will go ahead and link that in the description below. So that way you have access to it and you can go back and watch it because that'll be really helpful, especially if you've really never had any you never really heard of what regulation is and how to regulate. It's amazing once you can figure it out. Okay, number 2, get low. So when you're up high, kind of over a child like this, even if you're not yelling, you're talking to them, you're talking down to them, literally, but you're also in this very authoritative kind of position. And so I invite you to kind of take that down and literally get low. And think about being a team. Think about how can we work this out together instead of going like this. I always say, let's not punch fists. Let's hold hands. Okay, let's hold hands through this. And so, how can I get down on my child's level so that way they don't feel like they need to fight with me? So that way they feel like we can figure this out together and we can move on past this together. And I'm not coming at them because I'm mad at them, because I don't like them, because any of that. It's literally because they have done something that is not okay and we need to talk about it. We need to figure it out. And again, I want to give them those tools. Okay, number 3, talk slow. Okay, you probably assumed this, but I had known this before going to school and I was not talking slow. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an example here so you can hear how I talk slow with my toddler. So, oh man, yeah, you're feeling really angry. And she's like screaming at this point. Yeah, I'm going to be right here for you. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I'm right here. I love you so much. Yeah, you take all the time you need because I'm right here. Yeah. So it's just a very I'm talking very slow, which leads me into my next tip, which is do not rush your child. Do not rush them into feeling better because you don't want to see them hurting or you just want to be done. You have a to-do list. I get it. I am the to-do list queen. I have a million things I need to get done. But if this does not get repaired, if the situation going on with your toddler does not get repaired, you are going to keep having behavior after behavior after behavior after behavior all day long. And it may not be hitting every time. It may be yelling or back talk or screaming or getting into things or whatever, toddler things they do. Those things are going to continue happening because that hasn't been a true repair. They haven't been able to actually repair. So it's really important that you're going in there and not rushing, which, like I said, I know is hard, but it is so, so, so crucial in helping them to be able to understand what's going on. Okay, number 5. Sportscast. So I've talked about this in previous videos, but I'm going to explain it just a little bit in case you haven't heard it before. So sportscasting, is what it sounds like. If you go to a sports game and you're listening on the radio, you can only hear what's going on, and so you want to give a detailed description of what you're seeing. And for me, this is a very objective. From there, I am going to sportscast the situation, and I'm going to give you an example so you can kind of understand what I mean. So I walk into the room and the two girls are fighting over a toy. And I would say something like, hey girls, I see that you guys are both fighting over the airplane. Emmy, you look like you're screaming. Josie, you are also screaming. I'm curious if either of you know what happened. Now, mind you, I have a 3-year-old and I have an 18-month-old. The 18-month-old can't tell me exactly what's going on. She can point and say sissy, but that's all she can do. So I have to let my 3-year-old talk. I give my 18-month-old space to talk, right? But then if I'm still not seeing a solution coming up, I'm going to start sportscasting. Maybe if I saw something before the event. So maybe I saw, maybe I was in the room and I saw, my youngest come over and she took the airplane from my oldest, and then my oldest started to scream. I would literally say, it looks like Josie came over and she took your airplane from you, and that made you really, really frustrated. And she'll be like, yeah, that is what happened, and just validating what is going on can sometimes just melt them. They can just like, whew, okay, I can come down. Okay, I don't have to fight here. Okay, so the last thing that I do to discipline my toddler without yelling is to give them 2 different ways that they could handle something. And like I said, for my 18-month-old, I'm doing the same exact thing that I'm doing for my 3-year-old, even though my 18-month-old cannot give me a total ton of words. She's pretty much at a yes and no stage right now. But the coolest part has been watching. I didn't get to do this with my oldest because I didn't know better. But now that I do with my 18-month-old, it's like I can see how much she is learning about how to interact and how to handle things. And she's getting it faster and faster because I'm not treating her like she's a baby. I'm treating her like she's a human being. And so I'm giving her, like I said earlier, the opportunity to talk. I'm giving her the opportunity to choose. And because she can't, like if I go up to her and I said, hey, you hit your sister, what could you have done differently? She's not gonna be able to answer that. She can just really know what I'm saying, but she's building that subconscious. So I do want to still say it, but I want to be able to give her choices. I still do that for my 3-year-old. It's really effective with my 3-year-old. So my 3-year-old is to the point though where she can tell me like, next time I could probably ask you before I take the toy from Josie. I could probably ask you if I could, or I could ask her. She sometimes even gives me 2. But if she couldn't, if my 2 kids are fighting over the toy and I come in and I sportscast and then I say, okay, well, what could we do differently next time? My oldest doesn't know. She's like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, next time you could either do one of 2 things. You could come and ask Mama for help, or you could ask Josie because she might say yes. And then you wouldn't even have to come to me. And which one of those 2 things would you like to do? And she'll usually say, oh, well, next time I'll ask Josie first. And then if that doesn't work, I'll come to you. And I'm like, cool, okay, that's what we'll do. And then we move on. And the coolest part is that she then does those things. I want to give one little tip in here. I didn't put this in my notes, but I want to give one little tip in here that I think is really helpful when it comes to toddlers. Storytell. If you don't like a behavior that your child is doing, storytell with a character that is not them, that it's best if it's like an animal, or if they're like really into, like one of my clients' children is really into Lightning McQueen, like make Lightning McQueen like knock his sister over and hurt him, and then mom comes over and do the whole thing that you would normally do, talk through the whole thing, and then the next time that Lightning McQueen wanted to go hit his sister, he's paused and he said, do I need to hit my sister? I don't need to hit my sister because I didn't need the toy right then, or I just needed my mom, so I turn and I run to my mom and I give her a big hug, or I ask for help, or whatever you want the outcome to be is what you make the story about. And so that can be so helpful in toddler behaviors. So yeah, keep that kind of in the back of your mind. But I think that can be one of the most helpful tools when it comes to teaching toddlers how to behave, because the biggest, the most important thing that we as parents do is model. And if we are not regulated and we are not handling situations, if we are yelling, we don't want our child to yell, so what makes it okay if we yell? And so we want to remember that what we are modeling is what our children are going to do. So it's really, really, really important that we, stay consistent in that, and we are aware of how we are showing up just in everyday life, whether that's talking to our mom, our friend, our husband, like they are picking up on all of that. So I want to try an exercise real quick before I end this video that is going to be pivotal in helping you to stop yelling and to do what you want to do instead. Okay, so grab your piece of paper. If you need to pause this, pause it and come back. So the first thing I want you to do is write about the last time you yelled. You can write about the whole event. You can just write yesterday, Emmy hit Josie and then I yelled, whatever. You just put the situation down. Number 2, you're gonna write down how you could have calmed down your toddler in that moment. So you know your toddler best, so what would be most helpful. Then number 3, I want you to write down how you could have sportscast this situation in a calm manner. And make sure when you're sportscasting, you're not using words like, I saw you go over and you were rough and you ripped the ball out of the dog's mouth. Like, not like that. Like, we're talking like, oh, I saw you went over and you hit the dog and then you took the ball out of his mouth. Like, it doesn't sound like a judgment. It doesn't sound like we're mad at them. It just sounds very objective. So keep that in mind for question number 3. Okay, number 4, what 2 ways could they have handled that differently? So what are you going to say to them? What are the 2 things that they could have done instead of the behavior that they were doing? And let's give an example of hitting. If they are hitting, like they hit their sister because they wanted a toy, what would the 2 options be for them to do? Would it be ask their sister for the toy and maybe come and ask you for help? Like, those could be your 2 options. So write those down. So that way, next time, this is this reflecting process, the next time you go to yell or you're not sure how to handle a situation, you're gonna have a kind of a blueprint. Obviously, every situation's a little different, but you're gonna have a blueprint of, okay, this is how I can handle this with my toddler. So this way I don't have to get to that point of yelling. So although I know that these tips are very helpful and they will help you in the midst of many toddler behavioral issues, your toddler is not why you're yelling. There is something deep-rooted within you that is causing you to yell. And if you want freedom from that, if you do not want to be a slave to yelling because you feel like you have to, I want you to know that there is a way out. You do not have to parent in this way. I actually did an entire Stop Yelling workshop. It's an hour workshop, a 20-page workbook, and it gives you all the tools to stop yelling for good. It is my process that I went through along with some preventative things, and we will get to the root of why you are yelling. I break everything down. It's a steal. Like it's something that everybody needs, especially if you're somebody who struggles with yelling. So I encourage you to head over there. I'll put the link in the description below. That way you can check that out. But like I said, you will not be disappointed. You will be very grateful that you have these tools to put in your toolbox. Because like I said in the beginning, that is my goal. So I hope this video was helpful. I know it was very long, but I want to give you every piece of advice that can potentially help you to show up as the parent that you know that you want to be and you can be, and I want you to feel confident and proud. So anyway, I hope that you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and hopefully I will see you next week.